Invited guests, Charter Trustees, please be upstanding for the Worshipful, the Mayor of Poole.
Charter Trustees, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome everybody to this annual general meeting and hope you enjoy the occasion. I would like to advise you that this meeting is being recorded and will be available to view on our website for at least 6 months. Honorary Clerk, please may we have apologies for absence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies have been received from the following Charter Trustees: Councillor John Beasley, Councillor John Challoner, Councillor Emily Harman, Councillor Karen Rampton and Councillor Oliver Waters.
Thank you, Honorary Clerk. Can you please report on any declarations of interest?
No declarations of interest have been received to date.
Thank you. I will now give my report of the events of my year. So invited guests, Charter Trustees and officers of the Council, it's a great honour to be here today on my last day as the 775th Mayor of Poole. When I was elected as Mayor, I knew that I was going to have a busy and fulfilling year, and my experience as Mayor has been exactly that. Before I talk about my year, I want to thank some very important people who have supported and encouraged me throughout. Firstly, my consort, John. Sorry. Always enthusiastic and dignified. Thank you for your commitment and support. Deputy Mayor and Mayoress, Councillor Tony and Anne Trent. Thank you for stepping in to cover for me when I wasn't available. Sheriff, Councillor Pete Miles, thank you for attending many events with me, and in particular, the many schools we have visited. They were great fun. And thank you to the civic team for your help in organising the engagements and events, especially Mace Bearer Jeff, who has escorted us on most of our engagements. Thank you for looking after us and for the many regalia and mayoral history talks that you have given. I've had a diverse and fascinating year as Mayor of Poole, visiting many organisations, schools, charities, care homes, 2 of which hosted a 100th birthday party, businesses. I presented the Poole Business 2023 Awards, churches, universities, uniform groups, and much more. There have been some sombre moments, such as the dedication of the new Falkland Memorial in Falkland Square and the annual service of remembrance in Poole Park, which is always a moving and meaningful event, remembering all those who served in our armed forces and dedicated their lives to us in conflicts around the world. We have also attended some fun community events, such as leading the Pirates Parade on Poole Quay to celebrate Harry Payday, the Come Outside community event on Ashley Road and their Christmas tree lights switch on, Broadstone Fun Day and their Horticultural Society Summer Show, the Camford Heath Remembers event and their Christmas tree lights switch on, and many, many others. It has been a pleasure to visit our many uniformed groups, meetings and events, including Scouts, Sea Scouts and Sea Cadets. And I'm pleased to see that these groups still have an important role in our communities and are well supported. We are proud in Poole to have two excellent universities, which I was very privileged to attend for the Bournemouth University Students' Union Impact Report launch and their graduation ceremony, and the Arts University Bournemouth Summer Show. I was blown away by the high quality of artistic talent displayed at the summer show. Our Poole Lighthouse Theatre has hosted many events that I've attended, including the Holocaust Memorial Day event, Poole School's Music Association concert, and Quentin Blake illustration exhibition. Plus, of course, the 70th anniversary performance of Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap. I'm not going to tell you who done it, though, in case you go to see it. Christmas was a very busy time with numerous church and carol services around the town, and again I was very impressed at the talent displayed by some of our school choirs and orchestras. We are very fortunate in Poole to have such a high calibre of schools and dedicated teachers. I visited our parish church of St. James on many occasions and always received a very warm welcome from Reverend Lucy Holt. The most memorable event was the Service of the Sea and belated 200th anniversary of the church, which was well attended by Poole's uniformed groups, RNLI, harbour commissioners and many other organisations supporting our seafaring community. In April, I visited Cherbourg for a Twinning Association meeting, and I'm very grateful to the Poole Cherbourg Twinning Association for organising this visit, which was very worthwhile. On Saturday, the 4th of May, I had the huge honour of presenting HMS Cattistock with the Freedom of the Town of Poole in recognition of their work around the world, on sea and on land, and for our appreciation and thanks for their commitment and relationship with our town. This was a historic and exciting occasion and was attended by the Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Sir George Zambalas, which was widely supported by the residents of Poole, who enjoyed the ceremony, and the officers and the crew of the ship as they watched their march through the town with bayonets fixed, accompanied by the marching band of the Royal Marines. I'm very privileged to have been involved in this, especially as I was instrumental in arranging the ship's affiliation with the town in 2010, when I was manager of the Mayor of Poole's office. The visits which have impacted me the most have been those to our charity organisations, and I have tried to visit as many of these as I could, making it a priority. These have included charities supporting homelessness, mental health, disabilities, cancer, women's issues, various health issues, food banks, and many more. Our town is supported by the most amazing volunteers, giving their time, care, and love to those in need, and above all, my experiences as the mayor, this has been the most humbling and valuable, and I want to thank all our wonderful volunteers in Poole from the bottom of my heart. Many of the services in Poole couldn't function without their dedication and hard work. To close, I want to mention my primary school visits, which the Sheriff and Mace Bearer attended with me. These were the most fun and rewarding moments of my mayoralty. We managed to visit 12 primary schools across the borough, and every single one was a delight. The Sheriff, Mace Bearer and I talked about our roles, past and present, and some of Poole's rich and ancient history, and the children loved it. Even the teachers said they had learnt things about Poole that they didn't know. So apart from being fun, these visits were educationally beneficial. So that's my year in a nutshell. It has been an honour and a privilege to serve my town and communities as mayor, and I will now, very soon, hand over this honourable title to the Sheriff, Councillor Pete Miles. Thank you. We will now take agenda item 4, the election of mayor, carrying with it the honorary titles of Admiral of the Port of Poole, Mayor of the Staple and Clerk of the Market. The mace bearer will announce the office of mayor.
Oyez, oyez, oyez. Does any person here offer themselves for the office of the Mayor of Poole for the ensuing year? Oyez, oyez, oyez. Does any person here offer themselves for the office of the Mayor of Poole for the ensuing year? Oyez, oyez, oyez. Does any person here offer themselves for the office of Mayor of Poole for the ensuing year?
I now invite Councillor Mark Howell to propose Councillor Pete Miles.
Thank you. Pete was born in Stanley Green Road and attended St Mary's and St Edward's schools, where he excelled at football. He was once offered a professional contract by a French team, but despite growing up in landlocked wards of Oakdale, the sea proved to be his calling. He joined the pilot boat service in Poole Harbour when he was 15 and spent the next 15 years working at the port, at one point essentially running it. When he left that job, he fished commercially before opening a restaurant. He now markets Poole oysters nationally and internationally. When I first moved to Poole 20 years ago, I met Pete when dining at his restaurant, Storm in Poole's Lower High Street. People used to refer to him as Beautiful Pete, but fortunately, he is now old and grey with dodgy knees, and therefore suited to mayoral office. I first really got to know Pete when I asked to photograph him for a photojournalism project I was undertaking. We motored across the harbour, and I jumped out of the boat to take some photographs of him with some lobster pots. Pete shies away from publicity, but he became a local celebrity for a period when he appeared on a national TV series recording life in Poole. He remains widely known and liked across the town. The Miles family has a long association with Poole, having established W.F. Miles and Son Jewellers in 1875. Pete is Poole through and through, and his two sons, Baker and Jared, live and work locally. While running Storm Restaurant, Pete met Katie, and they now live in domestic bliss with a menagerie of animals and their lovely daughter, Iris. Pete is community-minded, having run Poole Town Football Club training sessions for youngsters for many years. He has served the residents of Oakdale as one of their ward councillors for 5 years, having been re-elected last year. Pete is also a valued Poole people colleague. He is down to earth, displays common sense, and cuts through to the heart of the matter. He observes and listens, but is not afraid of saying what he thinks. No doubt dealing with touchline parental outbursts was good preparation. I would like to thank Pete and Katie as outgoing sheriff and sheriff's lady for their hard work over the last year. I believe that Pete, ably supported by the Lady Mayoress, will prove to be an excellent mayor. There is work to be done to reconnect Poole's mayoralty with its traditions and communities, but I can think of no better person to pull the townspeople together.
I now invite Councillor Peter Cooper to second the proposal.
I haven't written a speech. Mark's covered loads. But what I will say about Pete in the short time that I've known him, although I knew of him, he's quite famous in Poole, is that there's a connection there between us creatively. So he's got a really good band and makes good videos. He's logged onto my website and we've got that creative connection and we're sharing stuff. He's a really creative guy and doesn't really show off about that. The other side of Pete, which I find a really lovable trait, is his love of the water and Poole Harbour and his understanding of what it's like to be a Poole-based person. And I often think of Christine White, who's passed away now, who was the head of youth service for a long time. And for some odd reason, when I talk to Pete, he reminds me of her because her dad lived in she was born in the fishing houses that are all kind of gone now. So every time I've spoken to him as well, what he's shown is a passion to rebirth what some of us feel we have lost in Poole, not by intention or by design or by default, but through bad political thinking from central government. Poole somehow has sort of floated away. And what we both have in common is to rebirth some of the traditional values of Poole that people really relate to in a kind of apolitical way. So, yeah, a really good guy, and we need to do a video together. I was in Wales recently, and we've got a filmmaker who wants to make us a film, non-political, and it won't be about Poole, although it might be. But I wish you a good year, and I second you. Thank you.
I put the motion that Councillor Pete Miles be appointed as Mayor, Admiral of the Port of Poole, Mayor of the Staple and Clerk of the Market for the ensuing municipal year. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? No, that's carried. Yeah. Okay. I declare the election of Councillor Pete Miles as Mayor, Admiral of the Port of Poole, Mayor of the Staple and Clerk of the Markets for the ensuing municipal year. The Civic Party will now depart for a few minutes to allow the new Mayor to row. Thank you.
Invited guests, Charter Trustees, please be upstanding for the worshipful, the new Mayor of Poole.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will now read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office. I, Councillor Pete Miles, having been elected to the office of Mayor of the Poole Charter Trustees, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I now appoint Katie Cousins as my Mayoress for the ensuing municipal year. I will now deliver my speech, which I can't really read, but I shall try my best. And I thank Mark and Peter for their kind words. I think obituaries are wasted on the dead, really, but I'm just glad they left out the dodgy bits of my history. But the first thing they teach you when you become a councillor is to saddle the blame. And on this occasion, I have to really officially blame Mark Howe for getting me into this situation. I was quite happy with my life. I was sort of soldiering on, doing as you do. And then he came up with this wonderful idea of having an independent party and all these wonderful things he could do for Poole. And I did scratch my head and think, why do I want to do that? Especially when he sent me on the mission to do the ward of Pen Hill, which I don't know if you know, it's a hard one to tackle on your own with large driveways and rabid dogs. Needless to say, I didn't get in on that attempt, but I thank Mark for the pleasure of trying. And where am I to now? But as I say, I think politics is all about trust, and I think Mark really, when I looked a little bit into Mark's background, I could see he was really passionate about Poole, and he could see that the political divide wasn't right and change was needed. And I also looked at some of the things he'd done historically, like he went to Palestine on his own and recorded, he wrote a book actually and recorded the lives of ordinary people. Though some now are dead. And I think that's really sad, but it shows that I could trust the guy and stand with him on anything he did going forward. And for those who aren't Charter Trustees, it's just to say something that what we do. Charter Trustees was set up basically to honour, well, when the historic borough of Poole was sadly demised, the Charter Trustees was set up to protect its historic value and the mayoralty. And I think it's been tough. We can all say it's been tough since those years because we haven't really got a home. And I think it's about time that the mayoralty, because it does an awful lot of good. I mean, from the outside, you know, we're just dressed up, but honestly, looking at what Joe's done this year and attending some of the schools, and now I've already got some engagements to go to, it's outstanding, and people really love it. And I don't think we give it the value that it is, because it really is a special thing that we've got in the town. So, if we can't put it right between us, then there's something sadly wrong. And I want to... Let's have a look. Yes, you'd like it to be the end, but it won't be. Anyway. No, but what I want to concentrate on as mayor is basically his health and well-being. I think we don't do enough for our kids. I think our kids haven't got anywhere to go at night times. When I grew up, there was boys and girls clubs, there were sports clubs. We had one in the centre of Poole. We had a sports centre there that was full every night. Full. You couldn't get in there to play any sport. They haven't got that. We probably have got it in all various different places around the area, but I think we need something central for our sporting activities and more of it, and give it the value that it deserves. So that's really why I'd like to really push my, if I haven't got any power, but that's why I want to really say that's going to be my aims to do that. I mean, many years ago, Mark touched on my soccer skills, but I started a football team. My sons couldn't get into the local team. If you ever noticed the Pike from Baden-Powell, he was a man that wanted to win, so any kids that weren't quite up to scratch couldn't get in the team. So the kids came to me and said, can you start something? And so we did. So we started them from under 7s, under 10s, and I took them all the way through to under 18s. And it was the most marvellous experience. It was just great. It wasn't too good on Whitecliff on a cold day, trying to mend the nets, Hugo. The parents never turned up. You're always there on your own, scooping up the dog turds. But it was great. It was a really good experience. And I think, and I know there's many people out in our community doing that now for lots of kids. So I think that the more we can give them power, the better. So, and I remember there was one thing that was quite funny. The parent would come up to me after each game and he'd say to me, he said, "What new words have you taught my son this week, Pete?" So it was quite amusing. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to this role, and I'll give it the best shot I can, and I just welcome all your support. Thanks. I will now present the past mayor and mayoress badges. Can you open the boxes when you do? Oh, yes.
We rehearsed this. Yes. So that's the escort. That's the.
Okay, next agenda. Right, we now take on item 3 of the agenda, which is the election of Deputy Mayor, carrying on with its honorary title of Senior Bailiff. I now invite Councillor Tony Trent to propose Councillor Joe Clements.
I'm pleased to be able to propose Joe Clements as Deputy Mayor. It was a pleasant surprise for Jo that she got re-elected after 8 years in the wilderness. In 2015, she was mayor-elect. Despite those missing words, Jo was able to carry on her civic trajectory. By the end of this coming civic year, Jo would have had her 3 civic years spread over 11. Jo has done a fantastic job as mayor and has continued the slow rebuild of Poole's civic identity, so badly damaged in 2019 by the merger into BCP and in 2020 by the awful COVID pandemic. Each mayor has brought something back to the role. With Jo, we had, amongst other things, a revival of school visits to show our young people the history and heritage of Poole. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the spectacle of the Freedom Ceremony for HMS Cattistock. I heard at least one resident say it was like old Poole had come back to life. The only cautionary note I have for Jo, mind you, is be prepared. Due to a flooding emergency that Jo had, I had to step in for Jo at 45 minutes' notice to a challenging event, one that has brought at least one former Prime Minister to his knees. The 45 minutes was manageable, but the organisation had built in a slot for a 5-minute speech. Needless to say, I could barely manage 2, throwing the timings into confusion. All that aside, but you know, there's a be prepared. All that aside, I put the motion that Councillor Jo Clements be appointed to Deputy Mayor, including the honorary title of Senior Bailiff of the Borough for the ensuing municipal year.
Oh, sorry. I now invite Councillor Marin Le Potawon to second the proposal, please.
I'm absolutely delighted to propose Jo, to second Jo's nomination as Deputy Mayor. This time, or a little bit more than this time, a year ago, we knew that Jo would be perfect to fulfil the role. Having already, as Tony's referred to, served as sheriff for a year and unable to move on to be mayor at that point because of, thanks to the vagaries of the electorate, she also had the added experience that most of us councillors have not had, and that is having run the mayoral office in Poole for several years. We knew she would be absolutely perfect for the role, and so she has proved to be. She's been a credit to Poole. She's done much to promote Poole and promote the mayoralty and bring back the traditions of Poole. And I suspect maybe she found things very different from what she would have expected, having had her experience as mayoral secretary quite a while ago, and knowing how things were then. The change now under BCP is quite immense. But she's coped, she's brought dignity and honour to the role, and I'm delighted to second her nomination.
I put the motion that Councillor Jo Clements be appointed Deputy Mayor, incorporating the honourable title Senior Bailiff of the Borough for ensuing municipal year. Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? So it's unanimous. Carried. I declare the election of Councillor Jo Clements as Deputy Mayor, incorporating the honourable title Senior Bailiff for the ensuing municipal year. Okay. I now invite the Deputy Mayor to read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
I, Councillor Joe Clements, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Poole Charter Trustees, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. That's a rather nice pen. Where am I?
There, no.
Okay, thank you. I appoint John Butterworth to be my deputy consort for the ensuing municipal year.
And now invite the Deputy Mayor to say a few words, if you like, Joe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So, as I said previously, I had a fantastic year. It was a huge honour and privilege, and I intend to do the same again this year. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to do so, obviously, when my trustee colleague here is unable on whatever occasion to fulfil his role. So I will do my best to substitute for you and attend any events that you're unable to attend, Pete. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Item number 6 on the agenda, the election of sheriff. We will now take item 6 on the agenda, the election of sheriff. I now invite Councillor Andy Hadley to propose Mark Howell. Andy? Be kind.
Thank you. I've used technology, which means I've got a perch. Mr. Mayor, Charter Trustees, officers, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to propose the nomination to elect Councillor Mark Howell as Sheriff of Poole. Mark has strong roots in Poole, a distant cousin to Philip Henry Goss, who is celebrating the mural just over the road. And Mark has always been strongly connected to the arts community in Poole and is passionate about developing the cultural life in our towns. I know, because she did me the kindness of sharing her speech, what Councillor Moore intends to say, so we've avoided some duplication. Whilst I understand the position comes with a big stick and the keys to the town jail, I am assured that they are purely ceremonial. And indeed, the jail is a bit too full of heat pumps and other equipment to cater for any shepherding of drunkards or lost sheep. I'm sorry, Mark. Poole's history dates back to the Longspay Charter, indeed far further to pre-Roman times. And many Charter Trustees are concerned about how we preserve and build on that sense of history and place within the Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Authority. Mark is always full of ideas and vision and has a strong sense of saying what he believes, that I'm sure he will bring to sustaining the historic role of Sheriff in the support of the Mayor, and it gives me great pleasure to propose his nomination to the role of Sheriff of Poole for the following municipal year. Mr. Mayor, I would also like to propose a vote of thanks for retiring Deputy Mayor, Councillor Tony Trent, who is also passionate about the history of town and the role of the Charter Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I now invite Councillor Sandra Moore to second the proposal.
Mr. Mayor, Charter Trustees, officers, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be able to second the nomination to elect Councillor Mark Howell as Sheriff of Poole. Mark was first elected to the former Poole Council in December 2010 in a by-election. He is, of course, the founding member of Poole People Party, which 13 years ago people said wouldn't last. Right from the start, when making his first speech at full council, Mark set the tone for the future. He says what he thinks. which can sometimes cause just a bit of a problem. Like the time at a full council meeting in Poole when he decided to treat us to a poetry reading. The chosen poem was Shelley's Ozymandias, one of my favourites. But as it's all about the transience of political power, it went down like a brick. Brought the council meeting to a complete halt, the civic party were ushered out, and the monitoring officer tasked with finding out whether he should be allowed to continue. He could, so he did, and treated us to both verses in their entirety. But there is another side to Mark. He is a corporate and commercial lawyer and a published author. He's passionate about linking culture, tourism and sport to well-being and sustainability. He was also the deputy leader during our Unity Alliance. And currently, Mark is our lead member for regeneration projects, something he is clearly passionate about, and I'm sure he will drive forward, and which is very much needed. So today, I do have every confidence that Councillor Mark Howell will carry out the role of Sheriff to the best of his ability, and it gives me great pleasure to second this nomination to elect him as Sheriff of Poole for the forthcoming municipal year. Thank you.
Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Right, that carried. Yep. I now declare the election of Councillor Mark Howell as Sheriff of Poole for the ensuing municipal year. Well, Mark, congratulations on being Sheriff. Here is your wand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And there is the keys to the jail.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Would you like to say a few words, Mark?
Yes. I've got yeah, well, I haven't prepared anything for this. It turns out that there aren't any really. This is the only normal size robe in the sheriff's wardrobe, so which was being worn by Pete up until a few minutes ago. I'm pleased to say it doesn't smell of fish, but but yeah, I mean, for those old hands on Poole Council, they will find it very strange that I'm up here, as strange as I find it. When we've heard a bit of the history of Poole people, and when we first turned up, it was very much war games between the two main parties on the council at that time, and the male tree was treated as really a piece of patronage to some degree. And but you know, over the years, I've come to realise that its true value and how it gives an opportunity both for the mayor and the members of the mayoral party to, really see what, the great things about Poole, the great people who are making it work at a local level. And I look forward to participating in that. And, that's been especially the case with regard to, the current occupants of the other offices. Pete and Joe have done a great job, and Tony as well, wherever he's gone. Tony, you've been an inspiration as well. So thank you very much, everybody, for electing me.
We will now take item 7 on the agenda, the appointment of one representative and a substitute to the Association of Charter Trustee Towns, the ACTT. Can I please seek nominations, please? We got you on that?
Would anybody want to nominate?
Yes. Can I propose Tony Trent?
Yep, and I'll second that. So, Councillor Mark Howe will be the substitute for that appointment. So I should put that in, I should say that a bit better. So I now put the motion that Tony Councillors Trent and Mark Howe will be appointed representative and substitute, respectively, to the Association of Charter Trustee Towns. Can we have a seconder for that? Councillor Rice. Yep. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? So that's carried. So I do declare that Councillors Tony Trent and Mark Howe are appointed representative and substitute, respectively, to the Association of Charter Trustee Towns. Right. We will now take item 8 on the agenda to appoint budget signatories. Can I please seek nominations? Yes, Tony.
I propose Councillor David Brown and Councillor Peter Cooper as the signatories.
Thank you, Tony. I'll second that, please. Are there any other nominations? I now put the motion that Councillors David Brown and Peter Cooper be appointed budget signatories. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Motion carried. I declare that Councillors David Brown and Peter Cooper be appointed budget signatories for the ensuing municipal year. We will now take item 9 on the agenda to appoint a Charter Trustee to undertake bank statement verifications. Can I please seek nominations? Joe, will you propose John?
Okay. I propose Councillor John Challoner.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder for that, please? I appointed that John Challoner will be undertake the bank statement verifications for the ensuing municipal year. We will now take item 10 on the agenda to agree the calendar of meetings. The Charter Trustees are asked to consider the following arrangements for meetings in accordance with the standing orders. We have the 25th of June 2024, 5 p.m, 22nd of October 2024 at 5 p.m, 29th of Jan 2025 at 5 p.m, and the 13th of May 2025 at 5 p.m. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Oh, sorry. One abstention. Thank you. I declare that Charter Trustees have agreed the calendar of meetings in accordance with the standing orders. Charter Trustees and invited guests, that concludes the business of the meeting. I formally declare the meeting closed and thank you for coming. And we are going to empty out, go to the Angel for a beer. We're going to set the room up for Nosh afterwards. We'd like you all to come back, if you may. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding while the Civic Party retire.